All right, hey, what's going on, guys? So, tough topic today. A lot of things I'm going to cover. Normally, before I start a video, I'll pray and I'll really ask the Lord for guidance. But this video, I was just really struggling to ask the Lord to speak in grace and in mercy and in love because it's a hot topic. It's something that, if not checked, I could just go loose on. And so I pray that this video is going to be received well and hopefully that it would help a lot of people because these videos are not for me. It's not for, it's for God. It's for you guys. And so I don't want to just be speaking just because I'm speaking my own thoughts here. And so I want to really be giving you guys words of encouragement and wisdom. But as you can tell from the title, there's been a lot of things going on, and there's going to be more of this going on as time passes, as I've mentioned before, in terms of exposure and how God was showing me that a lot of things were going to be exposed through various means in different industries and different areas. And we see that with the health and pharmaceutical and with COVID and the vaccines and all this stuff, right? Masks and stuff. And so that's what I want to briefly talk about today because a lot of people still are not in the right place in terms of their heart condition. And so I'm not going to argue for what's true and what's not true and all that stuff. You can go do your own research, but if you have heard, and a lot of even the mainstream media now are forced to talk about it, but Fauci, Dr. Anthony Fauci, he has emails that were exposed, right? These are real emails that were exposed into, on the net. And so you have to just go through it. And one of the things I've always talked about, because so many people are still going to do this and they're going to get their opinion based on somebody else's opinion. They're going to draw conclusions based on somebody else telling them what that conclusion is, instead of going out and actually reading certain things and actually doing research. And I want to talk about that briefly because there's so many of us that are like sheep that just get led to the slaughter. And I've been talking about this a lot, but so many of us, we haven't grown in our discernment. And what God really wants for many of us is to actually humble ourselves before the Lord and to take an objective approach when you are taking news in. And so many people are still going to repeat the same mistakes and the same stuff. They will look at one or two articles. They'll go to a quote unquote reputable news source, Time, or Reuters or CNN or whatever it is, all these big box guys, right? But remember, all these media guys, they're like a person like you and I. They just have an opinion on something, and they will talk about things from their perspective with emotion, with their own thoughts and their own feelings. And oftentimes, depending on where they come from, if they're owned by an agency, if they're owned by somebody else with greater power and money, they're going to say things in a biased and skewed way. And a lot of people still don't understand that, right? A lot of people are very innocent and ignorant to what they think is just a world that's just okay and dandy. It's running fine and stuff, but they don't understand and realize that even some of the videos that are shown, even with Fauci, he said even in January 2017 that there's going to be a surprise outbreak. And it's almost like it was planned, right? And a lot of people say it was planned. And of course, some of the leak emails talk about the virus coming from Wuhan, manufactured, and all the emails. There's a lot of emails. You can go through it, right? Talking about masks and the ineffectiveness of it and how we just still need to do it. And a lot of people just believing in things that just come out. And so what I want to talk about briefly is there's a lot of us right now where we are living in this world and we are being fed news and propaganda, and we don't actually take the time to step back in the moment, look at it objectively and say, man, Lord, and praying to, Lord, how do I receive this? How do I take this? Is there something that's true? Is there something that's, even conspiracy behind it? Is there something that there's an objective or an agenda that somebody or some group of people are wanting to push? What is the meaning behind these things? Why is it that they're saying this, changing their mind, whether it's on masks or whether it's on some other topic? Why is it that there's so much dissension? Why is it that some people are really gung-ho about wanting to say the truth, right? And even Project Veritas came out with an exposure on Facebook, and executives and people knowingly and wanting to censor a lot of the stuff that was on Facebook, and you can go look that up, right? But there's a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of this controlling the narrative, giving propaganda, and all these different things that are out there. I'm not here to talk about what's true or not, but rather I want to expose you and elevate you and to help people to get them to the next level in terms of their discernment. And God doesn't want our people, our Christians and his children to be walking around like sheep and being told what to do and not having any sense of discernment on what it is that is going on right now. And if you take news and you hear it and you react, a lot of people, they'll hear something, they say, oh, you gotta wear the mask now. And people are like, okay, let's wear the mask. And they're so gung-ho about it. And they're saying, oh yeah, all the doctors are saying it. Everybody in the world is saying it. So we gotta do it. We gotta wear all the masks. And they said it's useful, it's helpful, blah, blah, blah. And even just a moment before that, Surgeon General, everybody said, no, masks are not required. You don't need to wear it. And then they changed the story. And this is just one example of many things. But the point is, a lot of people, they jump on the bandwagon. Again, it's a bandwagon effect. It's a group think effect. And if you are susceptible to jumping on a bandwagon and saying, yeah, let's do this, let's do it. Social distancing. Hey, no, this vaccine is effective and this and that, whatever it is. And you jump on news and you take something that people say, you read a couple of articles, you go on Wikipedia, you think you got all the information, you go on Facebook and you get generated to these quote unquote fact checkers, and you think, oh yeah, no, this is true. And then you walk around with your head high thinking, yep, I know what to do. And you become this, mask Nazi or information Nazi, and you're walking around with all this puffed up, just pride, essentially saying, okay, this is what we got to do. This is what's true. This is what I heard. So it must be true. Let's do it. And you're that gung-ho about something without stepping back, without first taking in information, taking a step back and saying, man, does this make sense? Rationally, does this make sense? Just because a doctor said it, just because Fauci said it, just because, all these other people said it, just because the world is saying it, just because CNN is saying it and MSNBC is saying it, is it true? Is it something that I should be taking as fact, right? And a lot of people, we're like sheep. We are being led to the slaughter. We're being led to do certain things. People are shutting churches down because they think there's such a, pandemic that people are dropping dead on the streets. And a lot of people are saying, dude, it's just the common cold, right? It's nothing bigger than that. It's just blown out of proportion. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear mongering. There's a lot of just a panic, right? And you have to take a step back and just look at it objectively, right? What is actually going on? How do I shift through the stats and what they're saying, what they're telling me? Do I just take it as fact? Or do I want to do some more research? Do I want to ask the Lord what it is that's true and what's fact? Because a lot of us, we just read articles and we just think, oh, that's true. And we'll just jump on this bandwagon and then just get all gung-ho about it. And there's even people that, at worst, they never change their mind. And they always will hear one thing, they'll anchor off of it, and then they'll never change their ways. And I'm pretty much... I'm not surprised or won't be surprised if there's people out there that will wear masks for maybe even the rest of their life, right? And they're so caught up with what they were taught and what they were learned and so traumatized by it and just desiring to do what they were told that for the rest of their life, they're going to wear masks, right? And same goes for many other things, right? So what's got to happen is a lot of people, they have to take a step back. They have to ask, and in the Holy Spirit and in your relationship with the Lord, discern things. Take a step back and say, oh, just because this person has credibility, just because this person has a title, just because this news organization is well known to the world, does it make it true? Does it make it true? You have to take a step back, be objective, just like a good judge, right? Just like a good jury, right? If they're good, they take a step back and they say, okay, what is the motive? What is the intent behind something? A lot of people operate in the first layer. They only operate in the first, they hear something and then they react to that. And because they don't have self-control, they don't have a grip on their emotions and their feelings, they just react. They just react to things and they just jump on stuff. You have to take a step back and say, man, could there be something behind this? And a lot of people laugh off things. They laugh off people and groups that a lot of people deemed as, cults or these conspiracy theorists and whatever it is, right? 4 years ago, people said, hey, there's going to be a planned outbreak, and a lot of the world, most of the world, is going to shut down, and there's going to be people are going to be forced to wear masks. They're going to be forced to take a vaccine, and you're going to have all these people the economy is going to crash and all that stuff. If you told me that, or if you heard that in 2017, and you said, "Oh, that's just a conspiracy," you are a nut, man. That's just a conspiracy theory. But then, of course, it actually happened, right? It actually happened. And until something happens and you deem something a conspiracy, you don't have the right level of discernment, right? And so you have to really take a step back. And when somebody labels something when all of the media, when everybody says, "Oh, that's a conspiracy, that's a conspiracy, oh, fraud, that's a conspiracy, oh, blah, blah, blah," and people are saying those things until it becomes true, then you go, "Oh, whoops, I was wrong about that." Instead of getting to that point and being told and shown things, you have to actually take a step back and evaluate things objectively. You have to look at a situation and say, man, those guys are really gung-ho about this topic. And a lot of people are labeling them as conspiracy theorists. Is there validity? Is there something to that? Maybe I should research. And more than that, maybe I should ask the Lord what it is that he thinks of this. And maybe he can reveal that to me. Many people, they sidestep God. They sidestep God and they go and they do their own thing and they latch on to what they hear, and they'll say, "No, you got to wear a mask. You got to wear it. It's effective. We have to stop the spread." Blah, blah. And that's just one example, but many examples. Point being, you have to take a step back. You have to observe and understand the situation objectively in discernment and with wisdom from the Lord. And then you go off, right? And then after that, you have to always check yourself. Every moment you check yourself, because when new news comes in, when something comes available, and you say, "Oh, no, this other thing that they said was new," and if new information contradicts or overlaps or overtakes the other information, you have to check yourself in that moment and say, "Okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they were wrong. Maybe I should change my view, and maybe I should accept the fact that there was a correction. Maybe I should accept the fact that there was some kind of false information, right? Maybe there was some kind of a narrative." And so you have to always check yourself and say, "Oh man, like those guys, those conservatives and those, right-wing guys, they were saying all these things for a very long time, but I ignored it because I didn't want to be associated with that." Instead of doing that, you have to say, man, what is the information that they're saying in and of itself? Just because it's coming from Trump, or just because it's coming from whoever it is, and I don't like them as a person, but what are they actually saying? What are people actually saying when people call them conspiracy theorists, when people call them, these, whatever the label is? You have to actually check yourself and say, "Oh man, maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was something to what they've been screaming for such a long time," as opposed to going with the world, as opposed to going with the media and all these things, right? And so you have to check yourself. And so the first step is you got to step back, be objective, ask the Lord in discernment, and you can go a long way in living out your life in discernment. If you went back and even last year asked yourself, if I did this and then I check myself every day, step 2 is check yourself and reevaluate the new information that comes in, and then admit to yourself, okay, maybe there was something else that was a lie. Maybe there was something that I didn't really get. A lot of people latch onto the first thing they hear and they never change their mind. And like I said, there's going to be people, probably, I'm guessing, that almost will never take their masks off, right? Maybe not, I don't know. But people are going to be stuck in their way. They're going to be stuck in thinking what they want to think and believing what they want to believe, instead of always humbling themselves, wiping the slate clean, looking at the point of view from another way and saying, okay, is that true or is this true? That's what a good judge does. That's what a good jury does. You have to be objective. You have to rid yourself of your feelings and your emotions. And a lot of people just get so angry. They just get so upset and they're just boiling on the inside because of certain things. You just have to take a step back and then look at the world in a very clean, objective point of view. And it would bode well for a lot of Christians. It would bode well for a lot of the population. And so I'm not trying to insult anyone in their intelligence and say, haha, got you, told you so. But I'm really trying to, in a loving way, ask people to have better discernment, because as more things come out, those things are going to be a, hey, told you so told you so? Did you need a prophecy to have that come to, for you to wake up to that? Did you need a prophetic dream or a word? Or could you have at least asked the Lord yourself for some sense of discernment? And yes, some things you don't really know, right? Some things you won't really know until someone reveals it to you, or if someone tells you prophetically what's going to happen. But for the most part, you can have discernment. You can have an idea of how to act and react in a certain way. And I think God really wants for us to elevate to that next level, not to be sheep, not to be people that are just going with the flow of the world, but really taking a step back and asking yourself, what is it and why is it that these things are happening? And again, I'm not going to talk into the details of the issues. You can go, research it yourself. But for many people, they were taking the same stance last year, all year round. And then only until now will people, as they even read the emails, as more things get exposed, will they change their opinion and their perspective on things. But then the question is, does it have to come to that? Every moment in your life, does it have to come to the fact that you need to be shown fully everything and that you have to walk by sight and not by faith, right? So that's what I wanted to encourage you guys with, because a lot of us, we're getting destroyed and we're going to get humbled and we're going to wake up at different times. But it is possible for many of us to stay awake earlier, get awake faster, instead of being shown these things way later on. And even then, because so many people have pride, so many people have just an arrogance to them, they're not going to change their ways. And so, again, it's not about left and right. It's not about political stance and stuff. It's really about the truth. How do you want to get your truth? How do you want to stay objective? How do you want to make sure that you are acting righteously and in a way that God wants you to see the world, right? And so, again, go do the research yourself. But again, a lot more exposure is coming. And again, to those that are looking at conspiracy and saying, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. Oh, that's just, those guys are nut jobs. Oh, no, these, but instead of doing that, Bible even says, right, when in Isaiah chapter 8, I believe, when talking about the Syrians, do not call conspiracy what is not conspiracy, right? Do not call conspiracy what is not conspiracy. Instead, take a step back and say, why is it that these people are saying it in this way? Why is it that this person is so, gung-ho and argumentative about this? Is there something to it? And you have to be objective. You have to take a step back and look at it holistically, without your feelings, without your emotions, without your pride getting in your way, because that's going to hinder your discernment. And so I pray that people wake up and they have a higher level of wisdom and discernment and understanding, because you're going to need it for this next stage and this next page turn of what's to come. Otherwise, you will get destroyed and you will get eaten up by the media. You will get eaten up and you will latch on to false information left and right. So you have to wake up. You have to wake up and you have to start getting biblical, godly discernment from the Lord. So hopefully this helps, guys. Again, I don't mean it to be so harsh, but in love and in grace, I want to present this to you guys. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you guys very soon.